Welcome everybody, Kathy Arbor here, and today is Watercolor Tuesday. If you were with me last week, you saw that I did a bloodroot from my garden, and I think it came out pretty good. And this was a white flower, but it did have a bit of white tinges, so I did show you how I go about doing that. And there is a bit of pen work. And this is going to be just a little bit of notes and documenting different things in my garden. So if you have a garden journal that you're working in, or maybe you're going to want to start one, join me in the process. I will be going back and putting in a little bit of words, maybe text from books or something like that in it, maybe even borders of some sort, doodling maybe. So I hope you'll join me in this process of mine and maybe start something for yourself. So like it said in the title, this is ink and wash, and I really love doing ink and wash because there's really no rules and it's in your journal, so it's mainly just for you. So that's where you can experiment. So today I thought I was going through my garden, and I do have a new channel called Gardening Artfully, and I have a video up there, and I decided to separate the two so that the algorithm doesn't get all messed up, because that's what happens if you put other things in your channel that aren't typically in there. So if you want to see anything about my gardening, feel free to go check that out. That's Gardening Artfully. And I'll be putting up videos hopefully every week. I have one up there right now of the garden walkthrough of my backyard. So I thought I would do a anemone, and it is a bulb. It's a spring bulb. That's not going to make much difference. And they're kind of a bluey purple color. That's not really showing the purple it is. It's showing it more blue online, but it's actually more of a deeper purple color. And they're only about, maximum height maybe 6 to 8 inches. They could be smaller also. Hi Dot, Janet, Joan. You just get back, Janet? I knew you were going into town. Did you get anything good? And these come up every year, and they're a little chrome, they call them, a very small little, it almost looks like a stone. They're really hard, and they're very unusual in shape. They do have a really pretty filigreed leaf. Don't know if I can show you that. So it's serrated, it's deeply cut, and once the flowers have finished blooming, then the leaves stay nice looking for a little while, but not very long, and then it all dies down, and then they're gone, usually in about a month. But these have been in flower since the beginning of April, and they're still going strong. So they do last, and the bees love them. So I thought I would show you how I go about doing this. Didn't go, finally realized Robert has to get... Oh, okay. Yeah, you may as well wait. No point in going twice in a row. So I'm gonna do mine on this page. I like using every single page in this book. That is a very inexpensive book from Michaels. Is really doing wonders. It doesn't seep through at all. The writing doesn't seep through. So I'm really happy about that. I shouldn't say that. It's funny. This here seeped through. And that was the stamp I did. So the ink stamp, archival ink stamp, actually seeped through. That's really, usually the pen inks do, but so there's a little tip, don't use your inks on this type of journal. So in order to do this, myself, you don't have to do this. I like using a pencil and sketching out a rough pencil sketch of my flower. So I thought I would show that and how I go about doing my flowers. And what I typically do is I'll find the center point of a flower. So let's draw this one here. And let's draw this one first, this bigger one. So I'll put the center in first, and then I'll look at the petals, so it's basically round, and I'll draw a round circle so that you know how far your petals are going to go out. Sometimes there's more than one row. This one kind of has two, but not a whole lot, so I'm just going to do one circle. But if it has a lot of different petals going into the center, sometimes it's nice to do another circle within that circle, so you don't, it's very easy to get your petals either too short or too long. So if you have some kind of a guide, that's what I like to do. So this basically is a circle, so I'm going to do this one right here. I'm going to make it about that big. And then this isn't quite a circle. It's kind of not facing you. It's on the side a little bit. So it's longer, so this center part's going to be off center, if you know what I mean. And then it comes out. So that it's shorter on the bottom here. Now, I'm just looking at this here. This is a little bit longer than this one, so I'm going to have that one there to start with, and I'm just going to put it in here. And then there's another one. It's kind of hard to see, but there is a little one there, and it's actually a little bit shorter. Because you're looking at this kind of in a bit of a foreshortening, you have to keep that in mind. Then there's one down here that crosses, goes into a V like this and goes over to here. And then this big one here actually is underneath this little one. And it kind of goes up, and then I'm going past the circle because I know it's a lot bigger. And it actually goes in like this past the other one. So you can, depending on how accurate you want, do you want to do the exact shape? That's up to you. I like drawing, so I don't mind doing this type of thing. And the more you view things and try and draw them with as much accuracy as possible, the better you get at seeing things like an artist. And I know that sounds kind of funny, but you do have to train yourself to draw what you see and not what you think you see. And our child memories have a lot to do with that, about drawing what you think you see. So everybody has this generic idea what an apple or a flower or daisy looks like, and we'll draw it. And pretty well all of us will draw it the same way. And that's why you have to really observe more carefully when you're drawing things as an artist to get the proper view, the proper dimensions and shapes that they really are. This one goes over like that, and then curves in, and then this one is the big one, and it curves out a lot, like that. That one goes like that. Okay, and then these little doodads, stamens. I know, I'm not sure about the anemones, but I know daisies, most daisies and mums, that type of plant, each petal is actually a flower. The whole thing is not the flower. Each one of these is a flower, but I'm not sure about this one because it's a bulb, but it could be the same idea. So you just do your best and draw what you see. Now I believe I have these on Instagram, so you're more than welcome to look up my Instagram. It's Kathy Arbor on Instagram too. And use these for your drawing too. I have quite a few different types. Now, if you have an eraser or, let's see where my erasers went. There's. You can erase the lines. I think I have a, let's see, there is an eraser out there, a mono eraser. I know I have one upstairs. I don't know if I have one down here. Let's see, because they're the best erasers. I love them. No, I don't think I have one up down here. I must have left it upstairs. Yeah. I'm just going to try and get as much of that out. I'm going to put some more in. What I like to document is the shape of the flower when it's in full bloom. And then you can also put in the bud form if it's a lot different. It's kind of nice to document the different stages of the bloom. Just try to get as much of that out. I'm just going to take out that. And then, let's see. I have another one here that I just took. And this is the what happens at night. They close. Or if it's raining, they close up. It's really kind of cool. So I'm going to put a couple of those in. Maybe one stem. This one's tubular shaped. It's really long. And This one here, you can see where the petals are at the bottom, where they start. It's really neat how they just fold right into a nice little compact. That one actually is a little longer. Folds this way. Folds in like that. I think this one needs to be a little bit longer and out. So it doesn't take very long, but it's always good to, I like drawing. Now, some people just go right into the paint. Hey, Brooke, that's totally up to you what you want to do. This one's kind of cool too. I like the shape of this one. So I'm going to draw that one, and there's the shape of the leaf, and we'll do that too. So I'm going to put that one just below it, so it's round at the base of the flower. And just looking at the basic shape. And then it rounds. I see the center of it a little bit. It's not quite as noticeable, the lines in the center, but I do see them. And then I do notice the shape of the petals, how they fold into each other. So I will draw that. So it's basically like that. I think that comes out a little. And I do erase. There's nothing wrong with erasing. And I'm going to just put a few in there. So I do see a little bit in there, but let's see, that one curls. Okay. Then we'll put some leaves in. Now they're kind of three lobes of leaves, I guess you could call it. And they're very deep cut. Like that. This one you don't notice as much. And then this one, it's kind of foreshortened a bit. So it'll be a little bit shorter looking. Like that. And let's see if we can find one that's puts maybe one down here. Maybe a bigger one behind it. Put some behind it. Maybe this big one in here. So you can use artistic license too. That's fine. And there's one coming out like that. I'm just going to bring it in like that and out again. And let's see, maybe one behind here. So we can darken this area in here. We don't have to put all the stuff in. We can actually, might be kind of fun to put in some negative painting for this. Hey Dorothy, Joan, Nettie, Anne, good to see you all. There's not a whole lot of veining noticeable. There's a bit, but not a whole lot. You can see it's lighter, so you could put that in, I guess, just to indicate where that main veining is. All right. So now what I like to do is I have a kneaded eraser here, and I'm just going to lighten this pencil, and then I'm going to go over it with my ink. And you need ink that is waterproof. Some people like to use a dip pen with acrylic black Liquitex ink, or one of those, any of the Liquitex would work. Or there's also a Speedball Super Black, I think it's called. And I'm just going to dab. I'm not going to scrub it. It's more dabbing because I don't want to destroy any of the paper fibers. So just lightly remove some of this, just so that it's not so dark that it shines through the watercolor too much. Sometimes, depending on the paper you're using, it will rough up the surface of the paper so that it kind of gives it a uneven line when you're using your ink. So try not to scrub it right away. You can scrub it after you're done your ink and it's dry. Then you can go back and remove any unwanted graphite. And like I said, you don't need a special book for this. This is just a journal garden diary that I'm doing. And this is just a sketchbook that I'm using from Michael's, one of the very inexpensive ones. So use what you got. That's what I believe. I know we all have a ton of supplies. And if you're anything like me, I have a ton of journals, empty journals. We're just waiting to be used. And I'm one person that I like to use up my journal. I can't go to a new one and start it. I like to use two, maybe at the most, maybe one's for watercolor and the other's for acrylic or one's just sketching. All right. I guess we could start off with these ones here. If you're at all interested in the acrylic side of things, mixed media, I'll show you what we did a couple weeks ago, and it was fun. This is the Zentangle one we did with acrylic paint and then Zentangled. And I have those ready. I should mail them out tomorrow, Janice, for the swap. And then this is what we did in the membership for the Blooming Artist level. And I really like it. This is a collage, mixed media, acrylic paint. There's even, the wings were done with the paper for sewing paper. And then there's collage. We did some stencil on a plain piece of white paper, and then we just used some yellow, black, and white paint and made our little collage pieces, and then tore them and glued them, and this is just inked. I really like this style of the drawing behind the subject matter. I think it really looks cool. Thanks, Dot. Thanks, Janet. So that's on the membership for this, the last one. And we also did a face for blooming art or budding artists. And that turned out really cool too. So check those out. I think you can go on the my main page, and down below you'll see uploads, and then below that is lessons for mixed media or something like that, or members videos, and you'll be able to see what is up there. All right, so let's get this painting going. So I'm going to use black silver, and I'm going to probably use this number 4. These are the black velvet silver. Black silver. And now it's not showing the exact color on screen, but hopefully you'll be able to see this. Now I like to start with the lights first. So on my camera here, or my phone, it's showing this to be a very, very purpley color. So I've got dioxazine purple here. I'm just gonna, and it's a very, very strong color. So I'm probably going to have to water that down quite a bit. I have a paper towel ready. And I want just to add a little bit of color. And we're going to start on this one here. So this one. And so you start off light that way. Oh, wait a minute. No, I guess I can do. No, I was thinking I can do this first, but nope, I want to erase the pencil lines. So we're going to use my ink first. And we'll do, I have a 0.5 here. This is a Copic marker, multi-liner. And I like to emphasize where there's more overlaps or shadows, that type of thing. I go with a little bit of a thicker line, and I can do cross hatching also. So you don't have to outline everything. You can just do a little dashes and dots too, and sometimes that looks better, especially with flowers, because I find that if you put too much line work in heavy, that it kind of ruins the delicate look of the flower, if you know what I mean. Now these are fairly dark, so I can go in here. So where it's going to be dark, I'm not too worried about going in dark there, because it's going to be a fair amount of shadows in there. I'm thinking too of how am I going to do this as far as painting. So you might want to keep that in mind as you're doing this too. Maybe you're going to use the dark color instead of doing lines hatching. These are the things you'll learn as you go too. This is experimenting with both line work and color. So maybe you prefer more lines in your work. Kind of, in some instances I do. I'm still learning with this. You're never too old to learn. Doesn't matter how good you are. There's always something to learn in this, in art in general. There's always new ideas that people come up with, and new ways of doing things that you never thought about. Okay, and then this one was in a different one. I believe it was that one. So it's fairly dark in the centers here. If you get the main shape done, you can usually figure out the rest. It doesn't have to be all done in line work. I know the center will be fairly dark, just where the petals overlap. There's shadowing in there. There may not be a lot, but there is shadowing. So I'm going to do those. Hey, Zandra. I think Xander's got a sale going on, from what I saw. So one of the mods could put her link in. That would be great. I really enjoy doing this, especially when the weather's good and you can sit outside and do it. But if you're one, a lot of people don't like doing it that way. If you're kind of shy about going to parks or that type of thing, just take pictures. There's nothing wrong with taking a picture and doing this. Especially nowadays because of COVID and crowds. You may not want to be sitting there having people come over to see what you're doing. But now you can either see how there's some lines in the petal, like the mid-rib. It's not as noticeable in this one here, but you could put that in with paint or your line work. It's up to you. I find if it's a fairly dark flower, it does kind of look nice. Thanks, Janet. And then there's little spots, but I'm going to use paint to do that. And then these leaves, I'm just doing, I think I'm just going to do the curves inside curves and where they meet. I'm not doing the whole leaf itself. I'll show you in a minute. See, just because a lot of that will be paint, and I know that. So I'm thinking, where's the shadows? I'd want my line work a little bit darker there. You can mix it up too. This is how you learn what you like, by trying new things. Then after a while you'll find your style, your own way of doing it. Sometimes it takes years for people to figure what their style is. I don't think I've figured mine. I'm still playing and in the process of learning, seeing what else I can do. I love it. I think I'll do the stems. Okay, so there's the drawing. Very simple, nothing too elaborate. Okay, what are you doing? I can always go back and put more line in after the watercolor's done. Go throw this on just in case I drop something. No point in wasting paper. All right. Now let's dry that, and then I'm going to erase any of the graphite. The more you do, the better you get. That's the same for anything that we learn. Cooking, sewing, drawing, painting, singing, music. Very few people get this right off the bat, so don't be hard on yourself. Enjoy the process of learning. That's how I look at it. All right, here we go. Now we'll start. We'll start with this guy. Now, I was starting with a very light wash, so I have this water in my brush, and I'm just going to dab the very outer edge so it's very, very light. I know this side is extremely light. You could just put a wash over this entire thing and then go back in. It's up to you. I don't know how you want to do it, but I always like to start off in a nice light wash. So that way, if you goof up, it's a very light wash that you can probably remove. And use the shape of your brush when you can. So I'm using all of the brush. That way I don't get as many lines of different colors in my petal, because I'm using the heel of the brush more than the tip. And just give everything a good coat. I'm staying out of the middle of the flower because that's going to be a nice bright yellow. So I don't want that covered. Okay, I may as well do all of these because they're all going to be basically the same. Hey Nancy! And you're just coming in. These are called anemones, and they're a bulb spring flower. And they come in this beautiful purple, kind of a bluey purple. They also come in white. I've seen them in white, mauve. I'm not sure if they come in pink or not, or any other colors. I know there's different anemones, but this is one specific type. And lucky me, the rabbits don't touch them, so that's good. And I don't think the squirrels have figured them out yet. Usually I know in my other garden in the city, they used to dig them up and eat the bulbs, but they haven't found them here. So there's my first wash, just plain. This one's going to be a fairly simple one. Now I want to dry these. Because of the paper I'm using, it's best to dry in between different layers. because it's not a watercolor paper, so eventually if you kept applying water on it while it's damp, you could end up having it go through the other side, and you don't want that to happen. Hi, Catherine. Yes, it's a recording. No problem. You can go back and watch it again. It's always up. All right, and the pictures are on Instagram if you want to use these. So it's Kathy Arbor on Instagram, and you're more than welcome to use those photographs that I have. All right, so let's do this big open one. So you can see that in here it's very pale because the sun's shining off of it, but there's a little medium color of mauve in streaks. So we'll take the tip of my brush and just do a few of those. Now you don't need a lot more color on your brush, because just adding the same watered down mix that you have sometimes will be all you really need. So let's see, we'll start off with this one here. So that's this one here. And we have just a very, very pale amount. And just along the edge. This is when you need a really nice tip brush. This one here. And then this one. It's not a real line. So if you're a little shaky, that's fine. These aren't like definite lines. It's more spotty, but the spots go down in a line, if you know what I mean. This one has a bit of a rim of a medium color. And then it's shadowed by this other petal a little bit. And you do have to remember that your paint will dry a little bit lighter. So if you're thinking it's a little bit too dark, just wait for it to dry a bit before you start erasing. This one here, it's fairly dark on the bottom part, goes up, and then some specks up there. And let's see, that one is fairly dark. Okay, these are really shadowed here. Now this one is pretty well all one color. The tip might be just a smidgen lighter, not a whole lot. And this one too. And we'll put some darker shadows in that also. And here, I'm just going to make all one color. That's got quite a bit different colors in it. This one has a bit of modeling look in the top part here. This one has a little bit along the edge. Remember, you can do, if you find that you only drew a portion of the whole picture and maybe there's a shadow being cast on part of it by another piece of the flower next to it, but you didn't draw that, then don't put it in. Only put in what's relevant. No, I can't speak today. That's relevant. Is it relevant? Yeah. To the petal that you're doing. If you didn't draw it, then don't put it in. That one. Now this one's very, very shadowed. And I'm going to put it even darker. But I'll just put that in so I know where it is. And it almost has a little bit of an edge. Same with this one here. And okay, so there's the mid-tones. I don't know if you can see that. All right, now let's add a little bit darker. So I'm taking this and I'm going to put in the really, really shaded areas. So it'll be this one's got quite a bit of a mark of shade in it. Take your time. Enjoy what you're doing. And then this one. Okay. Now, this shadow here doesn't mean anything, so I'm not putting it in. But I will put, there's a bit of a shadow in this here. And I'm going to put right there. And right in here is very shadowed. And I'm going to take just a bit of water and make that edge just a little bit blurred out. So that goes right down in there. And this one has the big shadow in it from the petals above it. And the same Colleen. This one here is right underneath the top one. So it's going to have quite a bit of shadowing on it. And this one here has almost half of it shadowed from the one above it. Right here. These were a little darker. And I'm just going to go in here a little bit, fairly dark. I'm going to put a little bit more wash over this one. It's a lot darker now that I'm looking at it. So as you go, if you're doing this light to dark, you'll get to see what is needing more color. It's a little easier than if you were to put in your darks first. I know some people do that, but for a beginner I think it's probably a little easier to do the light to dark first. Separating that one. Let's go on to the other one. So this one here, it's got a little bit of darkness coming up here, kind of. I'm just lightly using the side of my brush, just lightly skimming it. It's almost dry brushed. That'd be dark in there. And in here, this one would be quite a bit darker. And it curls a little bit as it goes up here, and that in itself causes a bit of shading in there. And then this here is fairly dark inside that flower, but it does go a little bit lighter as it goes up, not a whole lot, but you do want it fairly dark in here. Now you could take your pen and do some cross hatching if you want in this type of situation. I'm just going to make it a little bit darker. And this one's really unusual. So I'm just going to make some strokes here and there on the very edge, kind of like cross hatching but with paint. Go up those petal lines there, and as it starts to curve around, it's darkening. And there. This is darker. That's dark. Very, very dark in the center there. Now you could use your cross hatching to make that really dark if you wanted to. I think I'm going to add some more purple to it. So a really much more thicker color. So not as much water in my mix. And just dab around that center area. And then I'm going to take some water, clean water, and let it bleed out a little bit. All right, now the leaves, they're very bright. So they're almost, I've got a really bright green here. What is it called? Leaf Green by Da Vinci. It's a very nice, bright green. So I think I'm going to try that. I'm going to make a bunch of it because I don't want to run out. And I'm also going to use Hooker's Green. And this one's by M. Graham. No, this is just sketch paper, Xandra. It's Michael's book. Very cheap. Michael's sketchbook. $7, I think it was. Now, if you're using watercolor paper, you can do it the same way. You just, it'll be a little easier as far as spreading. This is just done in a sketchbook because a lot of people, that's what they're using is for field notes, that type of thing. They're just using a sketchbook, so I thought it would be best to do it in this type of book so they can see how to do it but you could definitely use watercolor paper if you want. Okay, I'm just going to add a little bit of water to that. And again, the same way, I'm going to just put a light wash. Be careful if you're going around anything that's damp or wet, because it can spread into your paint as you go around it. So don't touch it, or you can just dry it. Be the smart thing to do. And just taking a little bit more. So I'm going to do that to all of my leaves. Now this is by no means a work of art that you'd frame as far as watercolor. It's just a journal page. Something you can, everyone can do this. It's nice just to have a little bit of a wash on your sketching. I like having kind of field notes, I guess you could call it, or gardening notes. It's by no means a botanical illustration. Now, if it were that, this would be done in probably a couple days instead of a couple hours. Okay, and then we can dry that. You want to make sure it's good and dry. Okay, where did I? Oh, there it is. Okay, so we do see in the leaves there is definitely the veining is very light. So now we want to take and mix some, this is, I would say, Hooker's green, the really dark darks. But we can use just a little bit of the Hooker's green in that leaf green to make it just a tad darker, so we can put in some of these areas around the veins. So we're basically doing negative painting to show the veins. So keep that in mind. So we'll start off with this one here. And so we want to just leave a little bit of a white, or not white, but that light green edge where there's the veining going up the center. There's also a little bit of a veining going up each part, but it's not that noticeable, so I don't think I'll put it in. But it's not all colored the same. You want to take a look at your leaves and see where it's dipping. They're not flat. Leaves aren't flat. There's definitely curving to them, and you want to do that by showing the shadows of these leaves, and also from the way they're turning. They'll be just a little bit on the lighter side in certain areas, so you want to leave those areas for highlights. This is when it's good to have a reference or have it right in front of you. And I can always add even darker areas if I want to. So start off light and work your way to dark. So it's also good to have a really nice tipped brush. I really like these black velvet silvers. This is a number 4. You can get them even smaller. This one has, it's not really showing a whole lot in the vein here, but I'll put a little bit in. Artistic license, guys, remember, you don't have to put everything in that's there. If you think it doesn't make sense, don't put it in. Okay, have a good day, Z. This one's going to be a little darker. I'm going to add a little bit more under here to show that there's shadow. You'll probably find too that a lot of illustrative type of stuff like this is done more wet into dry. There is some that you do wet into wet, but a lot of it I find I do this way. And this is how you learn what is the best way of doing things for you, because not everyone would do it the same way. And two, this isn't watercolor paper, so therefore it will be different in how you apply it. Okay, this one, let's see, I think was something like this here. So very dark, a little bit a little lighter in there, but not a whole lot. And then much darker in here again. keep in mind of where everything is too, how it's turning, because your brush strokes can help with that too. Added a little bit more of that leaf color. Then this one here is going to be fairly dark on the bottom here. So I'm going to add some more of that Coker's green. A bit darker in there. The thing about using sketchbook paper like this is you have to work a little faster if you want to blend any edges. Let's try just doing a wet into wet in this leaf here. Not sure. So we'll wet this area. Just do bits at a time too. So it'll be a little bit softer a look. And the only thing with wet into wet is that it's hard to keep that center vein from filling in. Let's see. It's not bad. You have to be limited to how much you can put on though, because you don't want to go through to the other side of your paper, your page. It works. We could also do some pen work. This will be green here, fairly dark. I'm gonna darken that. We could do pen work in here too. All right, let's do the center of the flower. So the center of the flower is very, very bright. So it's kind of an orangey, nice ochre, orangey color around the outer edge, and then kind of a lemon yellow in the center. Let's see, I think I have better. Yes, this one's the one we're doing. So it's more of a warmer yellow around the outer edge, and the inside is kind of a lemon yellow. So let's put on, let's see, what's this one here? Oh, I can't get it out. Find your warm yellow. That's kind of a greeny yellow, but I can always put in a little bit of ochre or Indian red. There. That's a nice color. And the outside edges, I'm just going to dab. I'm not going to put a swath of color in because I want to show that there's dimension to this too, so you need to add some other colors to that besides just that ochre color. Now just a plain lemon yellow. And water that down. Don't want it too strong. I'm gonna dry that first though. Okay, so I'm just dabbing in there. And any of the white areas you see in there, you could do those too from the last bit that I did. And there was a little bit of white patches here and there. Just dab those in. And I could take a white marker also, or white ink, and we may do that, dot in a little bit here and there. There was a glow of, I probably won't be able to get that in. I noticed that here there's a bit of a shadow cast from that. So I'm going to take some of that purple and just do a few marks where those are cast from the stamens. A little bit lighter. And any areas that need a little bit more. See, as you go to, you'll see areas that need to be bumped up a little bit. And this is why it's good to do the light to dark. Because as it dries, you'll notice it's not quite got enough punch to it. I'm going to be putting some background color in there too. I just needed a little bit more in there. Hey, Kathy. All right, now I'm going to put a little bit of green in the background here. So this hooker's green. And I think I'm just going to wet my area first. And then just drop in some of that green color. So just wet the area where you want it. And then load your brush up and just dab. And you can just have it modeled looking, so that way you're not sure exactly what's behind there, but it could be leaves, it could be other plants. Wherever you got the most, like kind of in the center of the painting where most of the shadows would be, is good to do this. I wouldn't do this dark on the outer edge, but in here, yeah, it would work. You may want to go back and even make it darker if you want. And then I'm just gonna take my water and bring it out a bit, but I'm not gonna have it as dark in here. So I'll start off and let it just bleed out. And the same in here. So the darkest area is in here. And then let it bleed out. A little bit in here. And then I can always go back in with cross hatching to make it darker. I'm going to bring it up into this part too. So just a bit. Just getting some of the shadow areas in underneath the leaf. Maybe under the petal. There. Any little white spots you miss, just go and cover them up a little bit. You don't want them too white. Thanks, Kathy. Okay, let's dry that and then take a look at it and see if we need to do any line work. All right, let's take a look at this. Looks pretty good. Now I could do a little bit of line work, maybe some highlighting. You can take a white pen or white ink if you have it, or if you don't have that, even a white colored pencil would do. I'm mixed media, so if I've got it, I'm going to use it. I'm not a purist. I like using watercolor, but I also like to add other stuff to it if it makes my work easier. That's basically it. If it's going to help me make what I'm doing easier, I'm going to use it. So don't email me if you're a purist. So you could add a little bit of white. Now if you've got gouache, you can add gouache. Let's see what I got here. I have some white pens here. Let's see if any of them are working. Okay, this one's Jelly Roll, I think. So I'm just going to add some white dots into that center to make it just a bit of light color to it, and maybe a few of the stamens, we'll put a little bit of white dots on there, bring it out a little bit. And I could take some white and go up the veining too, where the veins are, just to highlight it a little bit more. Let's put this away. Let's see what else we got here. Maybe parts of the flower where there's might have been a little bit of a vein, centerfold of the line. You don't have to put them in everywhere, best not to, because you can overdo this too. But if you want to put a few lines in, that's good. Just don't get carried away with it. Sometimes you'll see a white edge too instead of that dark edge, so you could just go over that. Let's see. I think there'll be some highlights in here, just on the tops of this here. And maybe it'll show up the darkness a little bit. I might just end up putting some line work, or, you know, that's blending right into the color. If you have gouache, you could use that too. I think I might put a little bit more of that purple right in here. Just a bit more needed, I think. I'm going to wet this. And let it bleed up into that. So I'm just placing it in the bottom and let it bleed up. Yeah, that's better. A little bit there. And I think I'll do the same right in here because it was very, very dark. Let's put some water in there. And just at the bottom, put a little more of that in. Let it follow its way up there a bit. Okay. See, once you darken certain areas, then you kind of have to go around and find any of the other areas that might be dark like that and put that in too, because if you don't, you'll notice that it doesn't look right. So keep that in mind when you're gonna add some dark shades. Okay. Hi, Marion. Good to see you. All right, let's dry that up. Okay, so there's the added bit of darkness in it. So let's take a fairly fine line. This is a 0.05. And I'm going to do some cross hatching in the background areas a little bit. So I'm going to just do straight lines and work around where those shadows would be. This here would be fairly dark. If you go in one direction and try to keep your lines a little bit straight with each other, then if you want it a little bit darker, all you have to do is go in the opposite direction and do the lines in that direction. And it just gives it more of a shaded look. You just keep doing the lines, but in different directions to get it darker and darker. This is something that you really have to practice too. I'm fairly new at this type of cross hatching, but I really like the look of it. You just have to practice. And you don't have to go from one side to the other side. It could be just patches too. I'll show you in a minute. I prefer using a fairly thin nib when doing this type of stuff though. I find that the large nib, it's too bulky looking and it takes away from the drawing. So you see how fine those lines are? But it gives it And sometimes you just need a few. You don't have to do the cropping all the way around. Just might be just under the petals to show, just to show that there's a little bit of shadow in there. Okay, like that. Now if this was ground, you could do squiggles. They don't have to be lines. They could be squiggles too. Dots is another one. You just kind of have to play with it. As you do more, you'll learn more, and you'll get the style that you like. But you do have to play with it. And that's why I like doing it in my journal. And it's fun to go back to like last year's drawings, or just seeing how you're progressing. You'll be quite amazed at yourself, how much you've grown in your art. So you could just do it that all, or you could there's all kinds of ways of doing this. You could make some more lines in the petals if you want. Give it a little more textured looking. Now I'd only do this with a fine marker like this one, because I think a bigger, fatter line just takes that softness from the flower away. But just a little bit adds it. Let's put some more, let's see, a little bit of shadowing in the center maybe. In here, around things. Show that there's depth in there. So there's all kinds of ways of doing this. What's the date today? 5/4/21. All right, so I hope you will give this a try and see what you can Yeah, memorizing. Exactly. It is. It's kind of like doodling or Zentangling, but you're doing it on top of something. It's hard to get to them, Marion. Good to see you, Kathy. Yep, that's why I always like to stream for those who can be here, and then if you can't be here, at least you get to be able to watch the rerun, the replay. So, hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you'll give this a try, and if you got any ideas of what you want to see me do, put them in the description, in the comments, so I can keep track of it. I'd like to start doing wood and trees, bird nests, that type of thing that I find in my garden, and start doing some of those. I think they really look pretty too. And also I think I'd like to start doing special little borders, maybe, something different. Instead of just a drawing in a painting. I do want to put some words in, maybe some comments. I painted along. I'll post a little later. Ah, awesome, Janet. Can't wait to see it. All right. So get your stuff out. Doesn't have to be perfect. Doesn't have to be expensive paints. If you got kids paints, use that. If you have acrylics, use acrylics. If you have markers, scribble a marker on a piece of plastic and then use a paintbrush and paint with that. There's all kinds of ways of doing this, and all kinds of different materials you can do to draw like this, and record what you see in the day, or what your garden is, or nature walks, whatever. So get out there and see what you can find and draw it up and paint it, and have a fantastic day doing it. All right, so I'll let you guys go, and I'll see you on Thursday at 1 Central, or not Central, Eastern. I don't know why I said that. And we'll be doing some more mixed media acrylic painting. Okay, have a great night, everyone, and we'll see you later.